Welcome, welcome, welcome. Another episode, Pound for Pound Box Report, episode 204. I am your host, Michael. Joining me this week, Gail from Communities Digital News, Scorsese, aka Low Place, Daniel from the Inscriber. What's going on, lady and gents?
Evening, everybody.
Happy Rusev Day.
Indeed, indeed. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report live weekly YouTube show and podcast, as well as a blog discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, we will talk about it. If you want to check out all information regarding Pound for Pound Box Report, blog page is the place to go to. P4P Box Report .wordpress.com is the link. You check the right of the page. You'll find links to the channels and pages on Twitter. Twitter handle is at P4P Boxing Report, as well as Facebook, G Plus, Tumblr, YouTube. Also, you'll find links to where to listen to the show on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Player FM for the folks over in the UK, Stitcher Radio, as well as Mixcloud. Let's get the show started this week. Recapping what went down last week. Uh, Overall, pretty good weekend, highlighted by the triple header in Vegas. The main event of that was Jarrett Hurd, Erislandy, Lara. Junior middleweight unification bout, WBA IBF belts on the line. Hurd won by 1 point on all by split decision, 1 point across the board, 114, 113, 114, 113 in favor of Hurd, 114, 113 on the third card in favor of Lara. Very good fight. I would guess to many a surprisingly good fight, given the reputation of Erislandy Lara being a quote unquote boring fighter. My thing has always been, and I'll go to you first, Gail, is that when you look at Erislandy Lara, he gets the label of being very careful in his approach, being again quote unquote boring. But for me, if you put him in the ring with a guy who forces him to fight, he will fight, and that's what we saw from Jarrett Hurd. He comes forward all night long, big junior middleweight. I mean, you look at the size disparity in the ring. Hurd looked a full two divisions bigger than Erislandy and Lara. I'm sorry, I'm not buying the fact that he weighed only 163 pounds. Fight night, he looked sure enough bigger. Uh, could have went either way. Very good fight early on. Erislandy Lara had the control boxing, but as I was saying last week, Jarrett Hurd, he has this way of forcing guys, of making guys fight his fight. He's a locomotive. He comes forward all night long, awkward in his approach, but effective. Um, Last round was the telling round in which he put Erislandy Lara down, I believe, by way of a uppercut, right uppercut, I believe. That proved to be the difference in the fight. I'll go to you again first, Gail, and you, Scorsese. Your thoughts on the fight? Were you surprised by the action? Did you agree with the scoring? Your thoughts?
Put me on the surprised as hell list that of all the fights we had on Monday night or on Saturday, that we'd be talking Monday about the main event being the most exciting fight of the night. Go figure. That's why we love boxing. You just never know. You've got to watch. You got to watch. That's why you got to put the guys in the ring and let them fight, no matter what the prediction is, no matter how they look, no matter what the record. Because occasionally you get a gem like this that, it's like a, pardon me, like a little, found treasure. And you're right. Hurd has a way, because he's so big, and I'm going to put myself on mute so I don't cough. Go to someone else and I'll be right back to you.
Your thoughts, Scorsese?
Yeah, great fight. And Lara made that mistake of I can hit you, so I'm gonna hit you as much as I can. I get the people that say, and it's not his fault because Hurd is a new entity in a way. You're like so and so don't punch hard as me. Trout don't punch hard as me. So I'm going to try to hit him and get his respect. And you say Tony Harrison punches hard, but he's not as sharp as me. So I'm going to try to hit him and get his respect. No, when Hurd is finally beat, it's going to be thank you, Trout, for doing some of the work for me. thank you, Harrison, Lara, for doing some of the work for me. It wasn't Lara's time that night. Hurd ain't ready to face, and Chin ain't ready to break down yet. His style might not last long, but in a way, he's already creating a legacy for himself with, I think, what, 22? Not sure how many fights, unified champion. So Lara just, he made that huge mistake of, huh, huh. And to his credit, he put on the best fight of his career to me. He represented for the Cubans that have been falling like crazy. He showed way more heart than most of them. Well, Barrera and showed some heart. He just got smoked out. A few of them show heart. They just got smoked out. But Lara, he didn't want to be that second, third, or fourth one that didn't show any heart. And he represented for his people. He didn't get the win, and I didn't think he deserved it. I had Hurd winning like 8 rounds even without the knockdown, but I do admit they were close rounds, and I wouldn't argue with anybody who had it, Lara or draw or anything like that. It was a great fight. I heard do a lot of tap work. He's greedy with the ring. He's not greedy with how much you can hit him because he wants you to work and be tired and then start to feel him laying on you and hitting you. And it's, boxing's different strokes for so many different folks, and Hurd has his way, man. Can't wait to see Charlo next.
I'll go back to you, Gail, if you're okay. If so, go back to your thoughts.
Damn, sometimes your voice just doesn't want to cooperate. Yeah, very well put. Lara, despite the loss, I think a loss like that's close, where a guy really lays it all out there on the table, raises their stock. If it had been a typical Lara fight and he lost, it'd be a lot of, oh, well, yeah, whatever. Yeah, he's not that exciting. He was just a tactical fighter. He was not fun to watch. That was a damned entertaining fight. He gave it everything he had all the way to the end. He was going to leave that ring at the final bell on his feet. And man, he got a little bit of a unintentional assist, I think, from Tony Weeks, who was really looking at him hard. Are you sure you're okay? Are you sure you're okay? And I'm, seconds are ticking, and I'm thinking, you're looking him over, you're getting him a little bit closer to making it out of the round, and he did. You cannot fault a guy who makes that kind of effort, and he will engage if you engage with him. And sometimes for a guy like that, who is skilled technically, who knows exactly what he needs to do, when he's confronted with somebody who a little bit wild and a little bit unorthodox, and I don't mean left versus right hand, I mean somebody who's just kind of a bit crazy in the ring, they can't figure the puzzle out. What's worked with somebody else who has a defined style that they can see and work with. You get a Jarrett Hurd who's kind of all over the place, and they don't really know what to do except you just got to come at them. And truly, looking at the two of them in the ring together, you can't believe that at any point, even during that few minutes on the scale, that they were ever the same size. The differentiation was just nuts. And, unless it was all in his hair or something, I mean, it was really crazy how much bigger he was. But credit to Lara, made it a great fight, made it razor close. I do think the result was the right one. And having it be decided by the knockdown, for that good an effort by both guys, seemed a really fitting end. And we had some odd scorecards that night. So I'm so glad we didn't get, some crazy Adelaide bird nonsense going on. Thank God everything on the scorecards was okay. But Hurd did almost have to get the knockout. He did have to take it into his own hands and force the judges to give him that final point to win. And good for him. Just very, very happy to see a quality fight end up with a quality result for both guys.
Going back both to you, first Scorsese and then Gail before I go to Daniel. both of you mentioned how exciting and how good this fight was. Could this be a scenario for, in terms of Erislandy Lara, uh, where it's kind of like Klitschko? And what I mean by that is Klitschko, even though he lost to Joshua, to many his stock rose because of how he fought, particularly when you contrast it to his previous fight with Tyson Fury. Could there be a similar situation with Erislandy Lara here, where his stock may rise and he may get more respect because of how he fought? Because for basically in the entire fight, though he boxed, he sat there and fought with the bigger, stronger Jarrett Hurd. First you, Scorsese, and then you, Gale.
Oh, did you get you already got Daniel in there?
Before I go to Daniel, I want to ask you this, both of you, that follow-up question first.
Could you send could he be like Klitschko in the loss?
Yeah,
Uh,
meaning that to a lot of folks, Klitschko's stock rose and he got even greater respect because of how that fight went. Could there be a
in a
similar situation with Erislandy Lara? Because as we all know, he often gets the reputation of being this boring, non-exciting fighter. Coming off of this exciting fight, do you think his stock will rise and he will get more respect from the boxing public at large?
in a fair in a more fair sport where people they accept who they want to accept, and it's kind of based on race, country, pride. Sometimes maybe, but then again, even in that fair world, it would be fair to say he would have to be fighting somebody like Jarrett Hurd for you to get that out of him, because that's been the case with him at times. Um, and not a lot of people are already, not a lot of people willing to fight him. So um,
Yeah,
it's
especially given how,
hit and miss.
yeah, given that fact. Go ahead.
It's hit and miss. You gotta have somebody like her. This is the Rigo effect. People say you need somebody to press them, and when you saw them, they fought. It was great. But on Lara's part, when we've seen people that shouldn't be in the ring with him, he'll dry it out and he won't go work. So I don't know. In a fair world, it's hit and miss. It's yes or no. So you know, maybe he sticks it out, but I got to see Jamel next, and whatever go from there. I hope he's in it. You know what I mean? That'd be perfect.
I see Jacob has joined us from Jab Hook. The same question to you, Gil.
I'm going to remain optimistic and say that once in a while things work out the way they should. Yes, who among us wouldn't want to see Lara again? And who among us is sitting here on Monday surprised to be saying to ourselves, yeah, we'd like to see Lara again? Who would have said that before the fight? It was we were all watching because we thought the undercards were going to be delivering the real entertainment. The main event was the one that delivered. It's a busy division. There's a lot of matchups. I think that it's only right to see, the premier boxing powers that be reward him with another fight. He's still a very viable opponent for nearly any of these guys. And he's perfectly capable of winning some of those belts back. He could make some things very interesting. So as long as he's willing to play ball and he still wants to get in the ring and he still wants to make the effort, I hope he gets the chance. And I hope that he and his team hear some of these podcasts, read some of the follow-up articles and reviews, praising him for what he did, and take that to heart, that he's getting a little love. He deserves it. And maybe that'll help him decide where he wants to go from here.
I'll go to you, Daniel and Jacob. Your impressions of the fight. Do you think the right guy won? Again, the question to you, as I asked Gail and Scorsese, were you surprised by the outcome of the fight? First Daniel and then you, Jacob.
I was surprised. I was very, very surprised because I did not expect Lara to actually stay in the pocket and try to match her punch for punch. He's normally a guy that maintains his distance. He will hit you 1-2 with counters and then try to keep away. But the thing with Jarrett Hurd is, like I said, that kid is a pretty big monster for junior middleweight. So it was hard probably for Lara to do that game plan. So he pretty much decided, okay, if I'm going to have to fight, I'm going to have to fight. And he did fairly well. Like, he landed some nice uppercuts on Hurd. It's just the problem of Hurd was probably too strong and too tall for them to have a good effect on them. And I had Hurd winning the fight. 7 rounds to 5. Before the knockdown helped a little bit, but that fight was really, really close. That knockdown was in the 12th round was the reason Jarrett Hurd is a unified champion right now. If that knockdown doesn't happen, it would be a majority draw. And given that fight that both of these guys produced, that would not have been a bad result, because it would guarantee the rematch. Well, it would get Lara wants a rematch now, and it's actually warranted now because there's some things that Hurd showed where Lara can improve on it. It's just meaning that Lara knows that Hurd is going to come in. He's going to grind on you. He's eventually going to land something on you if you get careless. It's just took one careless action for the knockdown. But after 11 rounds of a sustained beating where you gave some too. So I'm really surprised. His stock, the way his stock goes, is not going to be the same way as Klitschko, because when it came to Klitschko and Joshua, like there were exchanges of knockdowns. The knockdown came a little bit too late. What he did get was, like in Davis, he did shake off some of that stench a lot of Cuban fighters have, that they're boring, they're too technical, they don't like to engage. He shook some of that off for himself. And it's going to make you pay attention to him again because, yes, Jarrett Hurd beat him, but you can say he barely beat him. If he was just sharper in a couple of more areas, Erislandy Lara would have been the unified champion right now.
Your thoughts, Jacob?
Yeah, to me, I mean, it was a good fight, exciting fight. You know, it was on my list. I think when Showtime released their schedule, it was one of the fights I wanted to see. I was really intrigued by the matchup. You know, to me, it seems like, at least from my eyes, it seems like Lara is getting. It seems like the age maybe is catching up to him a little bit. You know, he's definitely hittable, and with Hurd being as massive as he was, like Lara landed some good punches on him, but it didn't really seem to phase Hurd. He just kept on kind of coming forward like a Terminator, and him getting that knockdown late. Obviously, like Daniel said, if you looked at the cards, it would have been a majority draw, right? If he hadn't got those, extra 2 points there, or I guess extra point for the knockdown.
Yep.
But what was that?
I was just saying, yeah, that was for the cards. Would have been a majority draw.
But to me, if they, we talk about what Lara could do different as far as to win that fight. I think there's some things that Hurd could do different to maybe put an exclamation point and take out Lara earlier. He obviously has some power, and he touched him up. His eye was messed up quite a bit. But I really want to see. I'd like to see the fight versus Charlo before a rematch with Lara. Not that Lara hasn't earned it. I mean, he had a bunch of defenses and whatnot. But I mean, I like to see new matchups, and Charlo's, both of them talk a lot of smack, but they've been backing it up. So I think it'd be an entertaining both pre-fight and during the fight matchup, and it's intriguing, and they both bring different things to the table. But great fight by both guys. They're no real losers here. The fans are the winners, and hopefully if Lara, I know he's going to continue, but if his next fight, hopefully he gets an opponent that brings a little bit more out of him, and he puts on another performance like that.
mic.
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry, I was muted. I'm sorry. Everybody here has mentioned Jermell Charlo within their discussion. Charlo, who was sitting at ringside, they interviewed him after the fight. He had some comments about that. Simple question to everybody here in the hangout. Will we see a Jermell Charlo, Jarrett Hurd unification bout in 2018?
Yes. Yes.
No reason not to. I mean, they're both with promotions. They're both Showtime, right? And I mean, they've been fighting on Showtime. There's no reason that they shouldn't. And they both seem to want it.
Yeah. Assuming that Charlo wins his next fight here in a few weeks, it's the right thing to do. The money all stays in-house. They don't have to pay anybody else to put it together. It'd be a great fight, depending on when they feel ready. I don't know if we'll get it by late summer, but maybe you put it in September, which is a busy month for fights, and maybe October. No, they wouldn't need to fight any later than that. I say strike while the iron is hot for once.
Yeah, the main thing is, luckily for her, unifications trump mandatories. So if he's not going to stick with a mandatory, that's the only available fight right now at the moment. And really, there is no other obstacle. Like, we know the obstacles that happened when it came to Lara and Jermell. They pretty much ran in the same circle until recently. So, but now there's no hurdle in it. That just leaves only the WBO out, but we all know that's that situation. So it's they better fight.
Think about how rarely we get what I would consider a real, honest to God, all-American fight. We don't get that a whole lot. I think it's great. There's a lot you could do with the promotion. And the time is now, assuming Charlo, again, has a good performance, enough of a showy performance. They can have some fun, whipping everybody up and getting ready all summer. And it just seems so logical. But then again, this is boxing.
You stole my words. Okay. This sounds too much like right. It makes too much sense. And because it makes too much sense and sounds too much like right, I'm a bit cynical that it will happen this year. Am I wrong?
Not in the sense when it comes to the money. This is the thing. When it comes to the PBC, they're at the point where they have to pay their guys now, because the money's starting to run a little bit low. They don't have the means now to like really pay off and do a lot of what they've done. They put their guys against not exemplary competition for big paydays. That looks to be about over for the time being. So they have to make this fight, because where else is Jermell going to get paid the amount of money he would be paid for a unification fight? The same situation for Hurd. Unless Heyman is willing then to go to HBO and go to Golden Boy and try to get him with Saddam Ali, or go with Frank Warren, should Saddam Ali lose to Liam Smith, and go with Liam Smith. So it makes sense, especially if you want to keep money in-house.
Again, I'm hopeful. Doesn't mean I'm necessarily optimistic. I'm hopeful.
I'm optimistic because we came off a really good 2017 that saw a lot of good fights get made. And to me, it was a really, really good year. One of the best years that I can remember in boxing. So it seems like things are trending in the right direction, and we're getting, fights that we should. I know we're not going to get everything we want, but I mean, we've gotten quite a few. So I think just trying to have a positive spin on it. I know it's boxing, and I know business, and all these things can happen. But I think the momentum from 2017 has been doing pretty well this year.
Your thoughts, Scorsese, before we move on.
Yeah, he said, Hurd was mentioning he's not gonna leave 54 until Charlo is on the resume and he got that belt off of him. I don't believe the WBO belt means a thing to any of them right now, based on the politics and everything. And I don't think any of them really respect Saddam. I can't blame them. Cotto was playing around with belts. The WBO has been a mess at 54 since Andre held the belt. So, I think that's the right way. He said he the A side now. The man took only 500,000 to Lara's $1 million purse. Um, he is maybe Jamel's A side, what 750 each, a million for him. So I don't know where's the money at in that. Both of these guys, he's saying Jamel is saying show me the M's. So if I don't know. I'm hoping they can come together and put that fight together and do the right thing by the boxing fans and for their
Uh,
legacies.
let's move on. Look, as exciting as Hurd and Lara was, it's it is equaled by how boring the rematch between Caleb Truax and James DeGale was. I'm going back to you, Scorsese. I
Mm.
mean, okay, DeGale won. Yeah, that's about all I can say about this fight. This was ugly. This was sloppy. Uh, the one thing I can say is that, yeah, DeGale won, but if I'm any of the super middleweight champions, I'm calling this dude out because he got the win, but he is all kinds of vulnerable.
Yeah, chop licking. That's what everybody's doing right now with him. The use of the headbutts, just the sloppiness of the fight. Truax, you could look at him, and I seen him doing pictures on Instagram. He's like opening day. He was going to opening day of the Twins or something, or maybe it was a throwback Thursday. I don't know what it was, but it said opening day. Him at the ballpark. Is opening day just happened recently?
Yeah,
Okay.
Baseball, yes, baseball just started.
Well,
yeah.
yeah, he was at opening day. So opening day showed around his trunks. He looked in better shape in the first fight, if I can recall. I don't remember the flabbiness he had going on. Neither one of them did themselves no favor. Some people believe Truax was told to go in there and take it easy, take it light on the shot fighter because the shot fighter is gonna get thrown into a UK fest, that UK money or something like that. I don't. That's a stretch,
It's
but
more than stress. That sounds conspiratorial.
it's a stretch. But I can tell you, it's more fun to talk about than that fight. That was ridiculous. James DeGale completely done in a way. It would be one of the biggest comebacks ever if he beat somebody a note. Um, I'll just pass it off to somebody else. Golly,
I
the
mean,
fight before that was better. God,
I'll go to you, Jacob. Classic situation of a guy coming out of nowhere to win a world title, and in the way that person perform and win the title, that's the best you're gonna get. And that was the situation here. Truax, the best Truax that you was going to see was during that first fight. This fight, um, he looked slow. He fought at one speed all night long. And DeGale, uh, he looked physically damaged. There were opportunities to hit this dude, Truax, all night long. He didn't take advantage. He kept moving backward on purpose to the ropes for no reason. Where was the jab? You didn't see it. And when they got inside, it was nothing but an ugly affair of just holding and both guys tying each other up. Uh, no effective body punching. Well, some from Truax, but again, this fight was a hot mess in terms of action.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I knew I was going to find out a lot about whether DeGale, in my opinion, is done as a fighter or if he's going to come back. And in my opinion, he's a shot fighter. He has none of the versatility and the pizzazz and just the combinations and just all kinds of stuff that he was doing previous fights. He just hasn't been doing that. He's a broken man in my opinion, and I don't know that we're ever going to see DeGale, get back up to those heights again. I think he's a shot fighter to me. He didn't do anything in that fight, really. I mean, he didn't lay on the ropes like he did in the first fight as much. And there was a lot of headbutts, lots of the mouth, and a couple times, Truax was visibly, stunned by those headbutts, and they had cuts over both eyes for him, and DeGale had the cut, and it was a really ugly fight. But DeGale's not going to hold that belt for long. He fights somebody, that has half of a second gear, and they're going to probably put him out.
Gail, Daniel, your thoughts? I was doing some live commentary with Brooklyn Ingram over at BWTM Sports, and he's over there in the UK, and he's looking at this fight. Even he was like, DeGale got it, but yeah, in comparison to Benavidez, in comparison to Ramirez, even DeGale's number one contender, it's shaky for James DeGale, no doubt.
Oh, if I'm in that division and I'm seeing that James DeGale is dangling those two belts, I'm pounding at the door saying, let me at him, because those two belts, given that performance, are there for the taking. Oh, yeah. If I'm Zurdo, I got Bob Arum on the phone right now saying, please get me that fight. I'll go anywhere for that fight. And Benavidez would kill him, absolutely kill him. So, hell, as bad as he looked, if I'm Porky Medina, I'm going to say, get me a rematch. I want those belts, because he could beat him. Yeah, he looked horrible. Guys who've taken beatings like he has, there comes a point where they just can't snap back. And you can talk all you want about, well, he didn't take enough time off. There was no way any more time would have made it any better for him. He had plenty of time. He's either going to recover or he's not. And in this case, unfortunately, the answer was not. I think we can all agree that DeGale, even in his better moments, was overrated. I think most people would agree now. And of course, in hindsight, it's real easy to say that. But yeah, it's not like we're seeing the downfall of somebody who achieved true greatness in their division. It didn't happen like that. He's had a good, solid career. He's had some good fights. He's made some good decisions. He has certainly given us some entertainment over the years. I think he had, somebody needs to sit him down and say, you are very, very lucky to own those two belts, son. And why don't you go do a easy defense back at home in front of your fans and retire with those belts? But they never do it. They never do it. I'd love one of them to prove us wrong one of these days.
Your thoughts, Jacob? Excuse me, your thoughts, Daniel. Your thoughts, Daniel.
Oh, man. What can you say about that fight? A lot of headbutts, not a lot of movement, and ultimately it was a very, very, very sloppy fight. Nothing from that fight made me think that DeGale is even back to what he was 2 years ago, where you would make the case of him being the class of the division. So it just became a very, I can say it's been sloppy. Like, the headbutts itself were just bad. And ultimately, the only thing you really can do, if you're DeGale, you have to try to get some easy defenses. But guess what? You have the IBF belt. And your mandatories, ultimately, you have to meet. And I wouldn't want to be in those mandatories. I don't want to be in unification fights if I'm Team Chunky right now, because 168, he said Zurdo would probably beat him pretty well. But then again, the only saving grace for DeGale is the fact that Zurdo seems to be a fighter that fights them to the level of his competition. And if DeGale is a shot, there may be a chance for him. if you put him there with David Benavidez, you're just asking for the guy to be permanently injured somehow. You're just asking him to be hospitalized somehow.
I mean, Benavidez would roll through him. Groves would outbox him. Zerto could outbox him or outfight him. I'm not even sure at this point if if DeGale would be his mandatory. His name escapes me right now, but again, congrats to him for winning the bout. But in terms of how he looked in that bout and the prospects moving forward, shaky at best. Shaky at best. Let's move on to the opening bout of this triple header. Julian Williams, Nathaniel Gallimore. Hadn't seen much of Gallimore. Julian Williams got the win by a decision. I believe I had it 8-4 on my card. I know some guys who had it, some folks who had it closer. For me, it was a 3-part fight. First 3-4 rounds, Julian Williams without boxing him. I believe it was in the 5th round that Gallimore got to him with some power. And won the next 2-3 rounds because of that. Just like it seemed like Julian Williams, he got fatigued or whatnot. Was feeling the effect of the power from Gallimore, who fought hard the entire way. But the change for me is when Julian Williams went to the body. He started focusing on the body. Round 7, 8, and that paved the way to his victory. Put Gallimore down in the 11th. Argument could have been made that the fight should have been stopped at the end of 11 because he went back to the corner on wobbly legs. He didn't look in good shape at all, but he survived the 12th. Julian Williams got the decision. I'll start with you, Daniel. Your thoughts on the fight and post his knockout loss to Jamal Charlo at the end of last year. Where do you see Julian Williams in his career, and how would you compare him coming back? How would you compare him with the other junior middleweights out there?
Well, the fight, like it looked tougher than what we thought when we hear the names, but Lattimore showed that his record is not really a fluke. He showed real toughness. He showed durability. He showed he can fight on the inside really well. It's just that J-Rock was not only tougher, he was a lot more accurate. I think the percentage was he literally landed half his power punches. 50%, yeah. So it told that the accuracy is there. He could still pump the jab, and he'll outlast you if you give him the chance. Now, the thing with Jamal, what makes it interesting is the fact that Jamal pretty much, at that point, he was a middleweight, just fighting that junior middleweight. J-Rock is a proper junior middleweight right now, and he does have size, and he does have length. So it makes it pretty difficult to be in that division for him if you're going to be challenger, particularly now since that fight, remember, was a title eliminator for the IBS. So he is Jarrett Hurd's mandatory right now. And the advantages that Jarrett Hurd had with Erislandy Lara, he's not going to have them, the physical ones, against J-Rock, other than probably strength right now. And J-Rock is a pretty decent technician. So he could find holes in Hurd's armor that he could counter with. So it's going to be very interesting to see what's going into it now. We just have to see what his punch resistance is against the top level, whether it's, like I said, whether it is Hurd, whether there is Jamel, or even like if that would be actually pretty decent comeback fight for Lara to come back in, maybe try to set that up, and then while Hurd fights Jamel and winners fight each other. So there's a good chance of seeing that going into it. J-Rock has always been a pretty decent technician. He's always had good fundamentals. The main thing that got him was the fact that he was clocked. He got really, really clocked by Jamal. So if he ultimately has recovered from that, it will work pretty well. And the main way we're going to see it, probably most likely, is going to be if he faces Jermell.
Okay, I'll go to you, Jacob and Gail, and then Scorsese. Your thoughts on J-Rock's win, and where is he standing right now as he's on the comeback trail at 154 pounds?
For me, I mean, Daniel said a lot of the things. You know, he brought a good point with the Charlo being a true middleweight, and you know, in that fight, you know, he knocked him down with a jab. I mean, so you know, before he knocked him out, you know, to finish the fight. But I don't know. I think J-Rock has some skills, but I'm still worried about how he can handle big punches and what he can do in those situations. So I agree that the Lara matchup that's an interesting matchup. And then you against a Hurd or a Jermell, I mean, I don't know. I think maybe the power, you know, he might be winning early part of the fight, but then he gets caught. You know, I don't know if his chin's going to hold up. So, ironically, you know, someone will break the rock or put a crack in the rock. So, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, he gets, you know, some matchups and we can see, and we can see what he does. But you know, he's semi struggled in his recent fights. So,
Gail, Scorsese, your thoughts?
Well, this was as must win as a fight gets for anybody, and Williams had to win to keep his career alive. He did do that, barely. I would say he's off life support, but I wouldn't have a whole lot of else to say. He survived. I mean, who among us on the panel, was chomping at the bit to see him again? We're more interested in seeing Erislandy Lara again, who lost. I think that says a lot about the quality of the fight. He's never hit his stride. He's never showed any particular talents. You know, he's hung in there. I think he works diligently. I think he gives it a good effort. I think he trains fairly well. But sometimes, you know, there's just not enough raw talent to develop, or guys just stall at a certain level. You know, he's certainly reached an admirable level in the sport of boxing. You know, there are a lot of guys who never get to where he is. Is he going to get into that upper echelon, you know, what I think of as the, you know, champions level? I just don't think he's ever going to make it there. You know, will he prove a good opponent in the division for a few other guys? Maybe. He seems like he's fairly agreeable to work with. But, you know, I'm sort of damning him with faint praise. I just don't have a lot of really, you know, unadulterated positive things to say about him, except that he won, he'll live to see another fight, and then we go from there.
I'm going to you, Scorsese. This is basically the best we're going to see of J-Rock.
I could see the George Groves effect with J-Rock. You know, like the 3-time loser finally getting sometime, like, because the division. You know, you look at the division, the guys in it, and the talent. If he sticks with it, then that's the thing. He has the talent to pick up that title sometime down the line. As far as being elite, man, plenty guys don't make it there, but you know, he could get a title and defend it. I do agree with what I believe it was Jacob was saying about Hurd. No, it's Daniel, I think, where he was saying Hurd is stronger than most, but J-Rock is kind of physically strong himself. But at times I don't think he realizes that, and he's a little more finesse than called for. But you know, we seen the weakness, we saw the chin, we saw some guys. You know, he did look like he was running the struggle there in the middle rounds, but he turned it up. I do want to see more of him. I want to see plenty of that division, but we'll see, man. If he's Hurd's mandatory, he'll be somebody's mandatory. I don't know if it's unified champion. We'll just have to see. excited about the division, but if somebody like Hurd is around, yeah, man, I can see that George Groves. Like I said, you one or two times don't do it. Damn, I finally get it, and it'll be a proud moment, not for him, but for everybody who's watched him all along.
Uh, let's move on to some news here. Because there's nothing really of note happening in terms of fights this weekend. We're just going to do a recap in a news segment and do some and then next week will be a show of mainly. Excuse me, because there's no fights of note this weekend. We will not do any previews. Excuse me, any previews, and because of that, we're going to do recaps of this triple header and do some news. And then next week, we would do mainly a show of boxing previews because there's a lot of action happening on the 21st. Last week, we talked a lot about Canelo and Triple G. And we now know that the fight is off. Triple G is looking for a substitute opponent on the 5th. A lot of names being thrown around. Spike O'Sullivan, his number one contender in the BC. And now just go around the panel here, around the hangout here. What have you been hearing in terms of an update in terms of who a Triple G will fight on May 5th, if he fights May 5th?
Well, here's the latest, ladies and gentlemen, from no less of an authority than Lance Pugmire at the LA Times, who's one of the better boxing writers in the United States, reporting the possibility that this fight is going to be moved out of Las Vegas to, Jacob, the StubHub Center in Carson, California.
Please,
and
God.
And that in doing so, they can then make the fight under the California State Athletic Commission with Jaime Munguia that the Nevada State Athletic Commission turned down because they're having a hell of a time finding an opponent for this fight. And, you know, the clock is ticking, ladies and gentlemen. If they do that, the fight moves over to regular.
An opponent, accepting an opponent.
Accept it. Well, same thing. I mean, they
a
need
bunch
to
of people are
find
throwing the hat in the ring. So
find and secure an opponent. And so the idea is they'd move it over there. They wouldn't have to sell many tickets. He'd sell it out. I mean, that's a breeze. That Cinco de Mayo at StubHub, you know, people will go watch almost anything there. Well, if it was decent, and with a Mexican opponent and it is May 5th is on Saturday in Southern California. That's a no-brainer, and it can move over to regular HBO. They can support it. I mean, it's still going to be a big loss. And the other little bit of news that I thought was very interesting is that, and again, unconfirmed, being reported by sources other than me, I'm just going to repeat it because it's so intriguing, that one of the so-called likely opponents, Gary O'Sullivan, Spike O'Sullivan, is being rejected because he's a Golden Boy guy, and Golovkin and Tom Loeffler and K2 don't want to give Golden Boy any money for screwing up their fight. They don't want to send any more money their way by accepting a substitute opponent under their banner. They're just pissed. They're just pissed, and they don't want to do it. And I actually believe that. Yeah, I do. You know, I think, you know, on the surface, they're businesslike. They're all very polite with each other. Everybody's got to do business together, you know, or the fight game would fall apart pretty quick among, you know, even among people who, you know, might not go to a movie together or have a drink together. But I think that's very interesting. And it's just such a jaw dropper that I believe every bit of it. It absolutely makes sense. It's viable. It's a save without canning the fight entirely, which is just every day that goes by, more and more likely that it's going to fall apart entirely. And what a shitstorm. Just, geez, it couldn't have been any crazier. So that's the latest out of Southern California. We'll see how it plays out. You know, Golovkin, of all things, turned 36 years old yesterday, had a birthday. You know, if you needed another reminder that the clock's ticking, there it is.
Shout out to Miss Vicious Fox on Twitter for joining us on the chat room. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching, listening live. Going around here, reaction to what Gail is reporting in terms of the latest with Triple G and who he may fight and who he may not fight, and when, and where, for that matter.
Well, I hope what she's saying is true, because I want to go see a fight at the StubHub, like most Southern Californians. So, and I'm glad if the other part is true about them shafting Golden Boy. You know what? In this case, they deserve it. You know, this, whether Canelo did whatever he did, they know that this is around there, that this meat thing that they're claiming is prevalent. So they were sloppy and they slipped, and now, you know, everybody got screwed on that big payday. So, you know what? Power to them for doing that.
See Scorsese and dipped out for a bit. Your thoughts, Daniel?
Well, looking at the news, it tells me a few things. Number one, most likely what it tells me is they're having a pretty difficult time finding the opponent, like Gail said. And number two, they're probably having a difficult time having people that bought or reserved their spots for May 5th when it was Canelo take a discount or stick around when it was just Golovkin. So moving to a smaller venue. And by the way, also this fight moving from pay-per-view to regular HBO, which is a smart move. They say it makes it a much less expensive fight to produce. But it also means, like I said, the one thing, this is probably the main reason why they don't want to give any money to Golden Boy, that they lost a lot of money. Golovkin lost a lot of purse money by not having Canelo on the other side of that ring. And so I don't blame them one bit for not giving them a chance on Spike O'Sullivan. Frankly, like I said, I want to see Spike O'Sullivan versus Saunders first. Make it a nice little domestic fight. But what's going to be interesting, though, is this is April 9th. You are less than a month away from a fight date that is pretty much one thing that everybody looks forward to in the boxing calendar. And now you're running a very legitimate chance, because there's no guarantee that the California State Commission is going to accept Jaime either. There's a very, very likely chance that you either you're going to have an ill promoted May 5th card. Now, granted, it's Golovkin. You're going to sell in California Arts. The reason you're going to California is because it's an easier sell than Vegas, him by himself. Or for preparation's sake, you may actually run into a situation where they may even have to abandon the date and said, okay, if we can't find an opponent, we have to move the date. Maybe we have to fight in June, or maybe even fight in July. And with K2 still saying, like I said, even though they're not trying to do any business right now with Golden Boy on this card, they still said it, that they hope after this fight that they could line up the Canelo rematch afterwards. That throws everything off the table if you're going to think about September. So it's very interesting to see how you are going to shape up this scenario, because you need to build a good undercard. You might need Golden Boy anyway if you're going to California, because remember that kid Ryan Garcia, he's gonna bring people, he's gonna bring kids and people in the seats. So I would probably keep an eye on them. Even like if this shapes up, if by next week I don't hear about an officially confirmed opponent, you might legitimately see a possibility of Golovkin surrendering May 5th and possibly, like I said, trying to do fights in June and July.
That's what I'm thinking. In the chat, Vicious Fox says, "I'm here for I'm here I'm here for Triple G's pettiness." And to your point, you can't blame him for the stance that he's taken, because he's lost a lot of money. He was dependent on that date, not just for because he felt he won and he wanted some kind of, for lack of a better word, revenge, but he was also wanting that additional big payday, and he doesn't get it because of Canelo's lack of professionalism and Golden Boy and what they've been doing behind the scenes. So you can't be mad at that. I personally think we're not going to see a fight in May. I think you may see something in June or July, and possibly try to make a fight with Canelo sometime September. But for me, less than a month away, no opponent named, no site, you're going to have to do a lot of scrambling to make that happen. I just don't see it. I just don't see it.
Well, the only thing that sort of increases the odds of maybe Southern California being a default choice, remember, Tom Loeffler has also now started his own promotion company, 360, and he has just begun a club-type fight series in the Los Angeles area. Again, very similar to Golden Boy's LA Fight Club. You know, he's now got Hollywood Fight Nights. Well, he's got a little stable of youngins. He could toss all of them on an undercard, you know, and keep, you know, that keeps all the money in family. And you come to Southern California, it is crawling with Mexican opponents that will, you know, give people some entertaining stuff to look at while they're waiting for, you know, one or two decent undercard fights leading to the main event. It would not be difficult to do. You know, if they decide they will keep Ryan Garcia on the card to bring people into the seats, he certainly will. He absolutely will. Depends on how pissed they are, Golden Boy overall, to let him have a shot at it. But, you know, I think there's enough goodwill with Garcia personally and his team that it'd be okay. You know, the other guy you've got in Carson is manager, promoter Vadim Kornilov. And that name might not mean anything to most of you, but Vadim is, here he is based in Carson. He's Dmitry Bivol's manager. And, you know, they all get along very well with him. He's got a stable. He's got ties to some Eastern European guys. He's easy to deal with. You know, that's another possibility. He's right there in Carson. So
can they deal with the Heyman people too? Because Dominic Wade was a Heyman guy, right?
Yeah, they will. I mean, the bottom line is there's so much activity in Southern California, and so much of it is with guys who, you know, there's just such a critical mass of gyms and guys training all the time, and they're really close. They're, you know, basically ready to go. They're always hoping for that shot, that it wouldn't be that tough to toss a undercard based with local guys. You know, their entire following and the entire gym will come out and see them. You know, and if you get 500 people from one gym and 500 from another and a few hundred more for another, next thing you know, the place is full. You know, and everyone paid for the seat. So
there's that one kid. I'm not a big fan of him, but he brings a lot of asses to the seats, which is that Nick Arce.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, you can hardly miss his folks. I mean, there's just a jillion of them. I mean, you know, there's a ton of guys that could do it. You got Oscar Negrete over at Legends Gym in Norwalk. You know, you've got all that crew in Norwalk. You've got all these guys, you know, youngsters up there training with Abel at the Summit. They'd all jump on the card. Hell, Tom has a pretty good relationship with Agus Klimas and Kathy Duva. Put some of the youngsters from Oxnard on the card. I mean, you could either make it a Mexican card for Cinco de Mayo or a hybrid card where you also throw some of the Eastern Europeans on that card because they're all going to come out and see Triple G too. So maybe you look at this as, let's salvage the date, we'll salvage the fight, and let's use it as an opportunity to maybe introduce some new guys and give them a chance to see and be seen, make the best of a bad situation, and possibly, you find a little bit of a star in the making or, a rough diamond among all of these guys, and they get their opportunity.
Just going back to the discussion we had about Hurd and Charlo, Vicious Fox in the chat says that Charlo will kill Hurd, says Hurd has no defense, no head movement. The only thing fundamentally good about him is his long legs and ability to cut off the ring. Refers to him as a power tank like Chavez Jr. Quickly go back to that fight. Early synopsis here. Your thoughts if Hurd and Jermell Charlo were to fight, who would you give the advantage to right now? Quickly.
Jermell.
Gail?
Charlo. Yeah, Charlo.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
Technique-wise, yeah, it's Jermell. He has much better technique. He has a lot better skills. Just mainly experience overall. The main thing that Hurd can do is just try to overpressure him. But with this new training camp and now that they have a few fights under their belt, he's shown that he has improved in all facets of his craft, and that makes him a pretty clear favorite right now over Hurd.
Technically, I would give the edge to Jermell. I do wonder what would happen if he was to actually face a guy that big, that strong, who we couldn't hurt, who's going to be in his face all night long. I just wonder from a mental aspect, how would he deal, because we haven't seen him in that kind of tough physical and mental fight in his career. And Jarrett Hurd will give him just that. He will test the intangibles of Jermell, but from a technical standpoint, I will agree. I will give the edge to Jermell right now, but it's a fight I want to see because of the issues, the intangibles, the unanswered questions about the intangibles of Jermell. Let's move on to some more news right quick before we begin to shut things down. News broke today from Dan Raphael on ESPN that the upcoming Jeff Horn, Terrence Crawford match that's going to happen in June for Horn's welterweight title, I believe it's WBO, going to be on ESPN Plus, which is a new network as opposed to regular ESPN. Good news, a good thing or a bad thing that this fight is going to be on ESPN Plus, which is a subscription paid network. And this is for anyone, so unmute your mics, everyone.
Well, it's a good experiment to give it a try. They're going to have to launch this service with a fight that would draw some interest to gauge, how much they're going to have to put behind it promotionally. What kind of promotional money is it going to take? What kind of effort to get a return on their investment? I would think at first this is, they're going to potentially have to steel themselves for losing money, to make money in the end. But this is the direction that a lot of these things are going. People are cutting the cord from cable fast, very fast. Streaming lets you control the production, gives you a lot more flexibility. Nobody likes paying. Everybody bitches. Everyone, gripes about it. But the truth is, you're going to. This is something Top Rank has been talking about and around for a long, long time. It's far better for them to partner up with, the big resources at ESPN, which is also trying to reinvent itself, versus going it alone, which Top Rank has talked about streaming all their fights for a long, long time. And those of us who are boxing heads and fight freaks, like the people on this panel admitted, everybody, we're the ones that we'll spend our weekend afternoons watching those undercards live streaming, and we'll watch, LA Fight Night streaming, when there's only 200 people watching the stream. That's okay. We talk about it. They get eyeballs on it. They get video out of it. They get coverage. Eventually they hold on to and build a fan base. And once people are happy seeing these guys, then they're excited to see them on an undercard. Next thing you know, they're excited to see them, moving up the ranks. Ryan Garcia is a perfect example. Here's a kid was coming up through the ranks, doing the LA Fight Club stuff. He's doing the Friday night stuff. A lot of people were exposed to him through streaming first and said, whoa, who's that kid that keeps getting knockouts in the first round? I want to see more of him. And that's how you build it. But the problem with it is it takes a lot of patience, and you have to keep at it and keep at it. So nobody should be looking for some huge whopping success. And, everybody's intrigued to see Terrence Crawford moving up in weight, among top ranks guys, other than Lomachenko, which I don't think they want to really throw away a trial audience on him. This is as good an opportunity to test the waters as they're ever going to have. So I completely understand. I think the price is what, $5 a month? Is that what it's going to be? Has anybody heard?
I think it's like $4.99, something like that.
Yeah, $4.99 exactly, which is what I'm recalling being reported. Let's all be honest. We can all gripe and bitch about it, but most of us, average folks in the course of a month have to admit that somewhere along the line we pissed away $5 on something. So
I can find that in my couch.
Well, there you go. So yeah, would you want to pay for it every month? Do you have to pay for it every month, or can you just pay for it when the fights come up you want to see? I don't know, but it allows us as the viewers, instead of paying crazy sky-high prices for big bundled cable packages, of 200, and I'm guilty of this, 200 channels, and I watch 10 of them. This way, it's an a la carte menu. You get to pick and choose what you really want to see. Boxing fans will pick and choose, the top rank, ESPN paid stream and the Gold Boy paid stream. And, we're still going to come out to the plus side in the end. This is the way our viewing options are going. Get used to it, I guess, is the message.
Thumbs up or thumbs down to this, Horn Crawford being on ESPN Plus as opposed to regular ESPN. First you, Daniel, and then Jacob.
I would probably have to say right now, thumbs down, just because you lose an audience, a wider audience into this. But as Gail has pointed it out, this was pretty much inevitable. It was inevitable when Top Rank announced they were partnering, going to ESPN, that this was going to happen. Now, they were trying to lay up the format for this. Remember, they're going to be using the same streaming base that the NHL uses, Major League Baseball uses, the WWE uses, called BAMTech. It's fairly reliable, and you're going to see these fights going into it. It's not going to be seen as a wild success probably in the beginning, because it's going to be gauged with what the rest of the app's going to offer. Because the rest of the app is going to be mainly like they said, for sports you can't normally put on the ESPN. So there's going to be things there from the UK. Maybe you're going to have things like cricket, or maybe other level, like maybe even B-level soccer games, other leagues, European League, Bundesliga, things like that in that area, or Copa Libertadores, try to get some of that. It's going to be interesting to see how they're going to gauge success on this. Are they going to try to gauge success just on subscription somehow? Because you can't. It's not the same as what I mentioned with the NHL, MLB, or WWE. when you sign up to those networks, you know what you're signing up for. Whether it's hockey, baseball, or pro wrestling, you know what you're signing up for. This ESPN Plus deal is going to be pretty much an a la carte deal where you're going to get pretty much of anything. So you have to gauge to see which subscriptions spike up with the events coming up, and whether they spike up for a fight or they spike up for a tournament. That's one way you have to gauge success. And ultimately, you have to gauge success with the fact that you can take those guys from the app to regular ESPN. Because remember, the Jeff Horn fight's the first fight going into it. They've already secured the rights for Amir Khan Phil LaGreca fight.
Yeah, but I believe that bout is going to be on Facebook, YouTube.
No, they're gonna have it's part of the ESPN Plus app.
Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be on like a YouTube.
No,
channel.
I think Sky Sports is probably gonna have it try to do in their YouTube because it's not gonna be Sky Sports box office. So they may put it into that area, but they're probably gonna try to launch an all-out offensive on it where you
Yeah,
can
I'm looking
have
it up.
the app.
You're right. It is going to be on ESPN Plus.
Yep. So they've already lined up a couple of decent cards going into it. Like the main question I have with the Amir Khan card is whether they're gonna have like their own people talk over it, or they're gonna have to just siphon out the Sky Sports feed. But it's gonna take a while to gauge the success on it because we know it's primarily gonna be Top Rank. How much of it though is gonna be Top Rank working in-house or Top Rank working with other promoters? That's probably going to be, to me, the ultimate gauge of success when it comes into it. Can you bring other promoters? Can you bring other avenues to say, you don't have to do the work in streaming, we'll do the work for you? Like I said, because there's a lot of promoters that don't have the avenue, let's say like the Golden Boy has through Ring TV, where they own Ring TV. They don't have to worry about that setting. Main Events doesn't have that. Lou DeBella doesn't have that. A lot of promoters don't have. A lot of promoters, big decent promoters, don't have that. So it's gonna be a while. It's probably you probably have to wait a year to see how it shapes up because it's it. Considering that this is an ESPN app and it's going to be a facet for all sports, you're not going to be able to gauge right away what audience is going to be the main subscribers.
Your thoughts on this, Jacob? Are you there, Jacob? I see Jacob has stepped out of it. He's not responding. Maybe some technical issues on that. Yeah, let's go to this last loose story. During the Hurd Lara, during the Showtime triple header the deal this past weekend, Showtime interviewed Floyd Mayweather. And I'm going to stick to boxing here because I'm not going to go into his discussion about him and MMA because I'm not interested in that. Floyd disclosed that he had reached out to Todd DeBeauf over at Top Rank and to talk about a potential Gervonta Davis Vasil Lomachenko bout later on this year. DeBeauf confirmed what Floyd said via Twitter that indeed Floyd had reached out to him. I'll go to you, Gail, and then you can follow up Daniel, and hopefully Jacob will be back. I'm looking at this. I'm like, okay, is this a reaction to some tweets that Gervonta Davis put out there expressing that he may not be that happy with Floyd, with TMT? And Floyd is like, okay, you want to act like that with me, given what I've done for you? Let me put you in there with Lomachenko and you get exposed.
You know, when you sound off in public and insult your boss in any workplace, the boss is going to be pissed, okay? Most of us, no matter how angry we are at the person we work for from time to time, and I include myself because I work for myself and my boss is a bitch frequently, we all get irritated at work. But most of us know to keep it to ourselves, rent to somebody we know that's a safe place, is not going to come around. And, we try to figure out ways to work it out. But no, if you're going to do this in a public venue and spew venom at your boss, you're gonna be treated. You're gonna get the equivalent of a smack across the face. And of all things, Gervonta's boss is Floyd Mayweather. Do not mess with the master. Floyd doesn't need Davis. Davis needs Floyd. The equation, the power balance there is very clear. And I get it. If he's frustrated, he's a hot-headed young man. He always has been. That's what gets him in trouble all the time. So here we go. And of course, Floyd is making sure that he understands the balance of power here. Floyd has all the power, all of it. He holds all the cards. Floyd doesn't play any game at any level unless he holds all the cards. That's the way it is. You don't like it? Gervonta is not an indentured servant. He's free to leave. He's free to buy himself out. He's free to get out of it. I think Floyd handled it beautifully. I'm not normally in the habit of praising Floyd for things like this, but you know what? When one of your workers acts up, they need to hear from you if you're the boss. And he didn't say anything directly about him. He didn't humiliate him to his face or insult him by humiliating him. No, he said, oh, all right, if that's your tune, here you go, buddy. Be careful what you wish for. It was brilliant. It was brilliant strategy. The fact that we're talking about it speaks volumes about it as well. I say good for Floyd. That was, I think, a great way for him to handle it. Now they need to go into an office behind closed doors, and Floyd needs to say, listen, son, here's how it is. All right? Straighten up, get your act together, or get out.
Daniel and Jacob, if you're back, your thoughts?
This is the second time, remember, that Tank has crossed Floyd when it comes to this. The first time was when he didn't want to, when Floyd told him, you need to come here and train Vegas, and he said, no, I'd rather train in Baltimore. So they've crossed paths before. I think one of probably the anger that's coming of it is just mainly supposedly like Tank saying like, oh, you don't have confidence in me. You can't promote me. You put me in tough. Like when I came back, I fought a champion. That's what your promoter's supposed to do. I'm sorry. If you are mandatory, that's what your promoter's supposed to do. He's supposed to put in you in there the champion. He's supposed to give you the opportunity. When the promoter doesn't, that's when you have to have the problem. So this is a case of Gervonta Davis really being a very, very young kid and being very, very probably not clear about what he thinks the way things should be run. And actually, this could be a side effect of Floyd's own creation. It doesn't really mean that like Floyd's anything wrong as a promoter in this sense. It just means the fact that Floyd has created a template for fighters to self-promote and to gain notoriety and to make a decent amount of money. And unfortunately, what people have not realized, and a lot of the guys that really try to emulate it have not realized, is you can't microwave that. Every one of those guys tries to. And you really, really have to take a lot of time to get to the point where you can do the things that Floyd did, and not only get the things that Floyd did, be able to get the leverage that Floyd does nowadays. Now, as far as what the actual discussions are, I can believe that they discussed it. I still won't believe that the fight will ever take place. Because at the end of the day, what is Mayweather Promotions right now as far as some marquee fighters is Gervonta Davis and Badu Jack right now. And you have a very, very good chance that both of them might lose. And that puts Floyd in the back burner for a while. Because remember, he tried to go after Shakur Stevenson. That didn't work. Mikey Garcia doesn't seem to be in the mood to have a promoter, even though he actually needs one. So it can cut both ways. Yes, Gervonta Davis needs to understand that there's some things you don't have the leverage to do yet. At the same time, it's like to put in that kid against Lomachenko now, like when you don't really have much to count on in your bench. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword right there. But when it comes to, like I said, Gervonta Davis and Lomachenko, I'll believe it when I see it.
Miss Flight Lady responded to Gail's comments on Twitter that he not only needs that, but a swift kick in the ass as well. Jacob, if you're around, your thoughts on the situation with Gervonta?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
I'm talking about Floyd Mayweather. He was interviewed during the triple header on Showtime, and Mayweather said that he had reached out to Todd DeBeauf about a potential Gervonta Davis Lomachenko bout. DeBeauf said as much as well on Twitter. My thinking is that Floyd is doing that just to say, Gervonta, you want to talk about me and say I'm not doing a good job for you. Well, this is what you get. Your reaction.
Again, I think Gervonta's, has much maturity to still develop in his attitude. I don't know, maybe a lot of these young guys, think that, everything's going to be handed to them, or they're going to have a career like a Floyd, or, make money like Floyd and do all these things. And just because you're promoted by, one of the most, the biggest money maker, one of the best, the best boxer of this era, again, there's only one Floyd, comes around once in a lifetime. So I think I don't know why he's talking about Lomachenko fight right now, in the sense that Lomachenko has Linares, next. And the other thing I have the problem with Gervonta is that he did the thing that I can't stand the most, which is miss weight badly. So, I mean, this is your job, so why don't you focus on doing your job first, and keeping the belts and defending the belts that you win by making weight, and then we can talk about whether Floyd's the right promoter for you, or if he's not getting you what you want, then go test those waters. But in my opinion, he hasn't really shown himself good favor by not doing his job in a sense.
Just to clarify here, there is a tweet that he has deleted in response to Steve Kim, in which he, and for those who don't know why we're talking about this or what did Gervonta say, that had Floyd reacting this way, in a back and forth with Steve Kim, he basically implied that he was forced into that title bout with Pedraza, in which he won the junior lightweight belt. Said he was forced in that, and on top of that, he was off 6 months before. They put him straight in there with the champ, didn't promote it, and he still is not being promoted. And some other things suggesting that Floyd may be jealous of him for some reason. I don't know why, because he's Floyd Mayweather. Who does he need to be jealous of? He's doing him a favor.
He was forced. I didn't see the bruises from the gut of the the butt of the gun against his head. I mean, who really gets forced to do anything anymore? I mean, this is not like, fucking human trafficking here. I mean, he was given a fight and he took it.
Exactly. He won the bout. He wasn't complaining when they took him over to England and gave him a showcase bout there in a main event. Had him hanging out with Joshua and whatnot. He wasn't complaining when because of Floyd he got that deal with Everlast, not Everlast, but Under Armour. He wasn't complaining then. Am I saying that Floyd has done the perfect job with Gervonta? No, but he's done well by him. You have to give Floyd credit for that. He has done well by Gervonta Davis. In any issues that Gervonta Davis has had, it's on him. That last fight, that was on him. To your point, Jacob, he didn't make weight. It's Gervonta who's been irresponsible, not only with that tweet, but with other tweets in the past. What he said about Deontay Wilder, what he said about Raging Babe. That's him. That's him. That's not Floyd. That's not Floyd. Floyd could have maybe stepped in and could ask him, to apologize for what he said about Raging Babe, because it was sexist as all get out and misogynist as all get out. But it was Gervonta who said it. He thought he was slick by trying to delete the tweet. But boxing Twitter, we keep receipts. I got the tweet. I still have the tweet. We remember what he said about Gervonta Davis and this back and forth with Steve Kim. He deleted that. But again, boxing with Twitter, we have receipts. He acts like folks don't have a screenshot because I got it. So
let's not forget about this. Right, when it comes to the situation with Raging Babe, with Michelle Rosado, he doubled down on that on the radio. He had an interview, I think it was with the Breakfast Club.
That's right.
And I
totally forgot about that.
And he doubled down on it too. So yeah, like I said, as far as maturity, he has a lot to learn.
Well, and the fact is, he's now had run-ins multiple times, with multiple people over multiple months. We can no longer give him a pass because he's a young man, because he hasn't, learned any better. He's been pulling this stuff for a long time.
And I'm sorry, the fact that he's up there doing a YouTube thing with Broner, it's not a good look. It's not a good. That's on him. And Floyd, I wouldn't be surprised that Floyd pulling this move with Vasil is probably a reaction to that as well, because Floyd knows that the thing with chilling with Broner, given his problems, that's not the move if you want to be a champion.
Hey,
it's not a move if you really about this life. If you want to do something great.
That's right. Remember what your mom and dad always said to you about the company you keep. It is, you may not like hearing it, but they're right. They're right. And when you're hanging around people who are known bad actors, as you said, Michael, not a good look. And if that's really the guy you want to spend quality time with, and the guy you want to model yourself after, I don't think so. I think you need to look around for a few new role models. Say what you will about Floyd. Floyd's had many problems over the years, but Floyd more or less limited his problems to a narrow venue. He performs what's asked of him. He's held on to his money, and he's an exceptional businessman. He's never gone back on his word. He's never missed weight. He's only mouthed off on people who,
he missed weight one time.
Once. Well, you're right. That's right. That's true. But he picks, when he's going to mouth off with somebody, like a certain fighter, not to be named, he at least picks on someone his own size. right? You know, somebody who's up for it. Even I've had run-ins with Gervonta. Nothing like some of the other women in boxing I know. But I got up on his case for one of his early fights where he knocked his opponent down, and instead of going to the neutral corner, he stood over him and taunted him. The referee had to push him out of the way. And the man was down, and he wasn't getting up. He did win the fight. But you know what? You wait to celebrate until it's official, and you wait until you make sure your opponent's okay. You don't go dancing around before all that happens. And I got on him over that, and he got real snotty with me. I have to admit, he apologized to me because I made it stick.
Yeah, look, Lord knows I've had my issues with Floyd outside the ring, but when it comes to this boxing life and keeping it a buck in the ring, he stayed on his discipline overwhelmingly throughout his entire career. So when it comes to this boxing life, in terms of what you have to do in the ring and what you have to do to prepare, what you have to do to stay on top, as many issues as Floyd may have outside the ring, even though I don't like the way he tends to act outside the ring, that thing with McGregor, that was ridiculous. He lowered himself by doing that fight and the lead up to the press conference. He lowered himself. But again, when it comes to this boxing life, be best to listen to him, Tank. Be best to listen to him. And be more like Floyd the fighter, not like Adrian Broner the personality. I'm just saying.
Well, these guys, these young guys, man, it just seems like they think that, you know, a career should be handed to them and like they don't have to do anything and that everybody owes them something. Like, that's not how you build a career. You build a career by, you know, being in shape for fights, you know, fighting at your best, you know, fighting when you're at the top of the stage, when you're in the main stage, you know, knockouts and, you know, impressing people and fighting big opponents and defending your titles and getting more titles. That's how you impress people and that's how you impress a career. But, you know, someone that's this young that thinks that, you know, all this stuff should be handed to him just because he's promoted by Floyd is just a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, I think we're going to shut the show down. On that note, I'll go around the hang out here. First, I want to thank Scorsese for joining us. He had to dip out early. If you want to check him out on Twitter, been making a lot of noise. Not on G Plus YouTube. He's been making a lot of noise lately there. You can check him out on his YouTube boxing channel, Low Place #MLPF. If you want to follow him on Twitter and talk boxing with him, you can check him out on Twitter at My Low Place. Started the show with ladies first, going to end the show with ladies first. Gail from Communities Digital News for folks who want to talk to sweet science, for those who want to talk small business, Game of Thrones, Dancing with the Stars, the environmental issues. Let the folks know where they can find you.
Hey, as of this Friday, we may not have any boxing action this weekend, but on Friday, we're going to find out which 10 athletes are on the all athletes edition of Dancing with the Stars. We'll see if there's a boxer in the midst of that 10. Meantime, you can find me on Communities Digital News, which is COM, C-O-M-M, Digi, D-I-G-I, News, comdiginews.com.
Daniel from the Inscriber. Daniel from the Inscriber, for those who want to talk to sweet science, for those who want to talk the NBA, specifically Miami Heat, or for those who want to check you on Twitter to clap back against people talking nonsense, let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Yes, folks, you can find me at Raucous99. You can find my written works at the Inscriber Digital Magazine, and we're looking to probably launch a few more areas pretty soon. And like I said, do my own show here with the good folks at ForBoxingNews.com. Joe and Francis. We're going to do ours on Wednesday night. And I'm going to give a special, actually, shout out to guys, some mea culpa. Like I said, I did cite some things. I mentioned something when it came to Canelo situation. He rightfully corrected son, did it so like a man. I said, shout out to Gus.
And shout out to Gus. Shout out to Gus as well. And shout out to Bo. I believe he's still on vacation. So shout out to Bo from Truth and Facts, as well as Three Kings. And last but not least, Jacob from Jab Hook, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk movies. Let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, as always, thanks, Mike, for having me on the show, and all the listeners out there, or anybody you know that's interested in boxing. Listen to the show, give it a subscribe, like, write a review, help them out. I can be found at Twitter, JRATM23. And yeah, if you want to talk boxing or movies, that's where I'll be.
I want to thank Miss Vicious Fox on Twitter. She listened to the show live on YouTube. I want to thank Miss White Lady. She's also listening to the show live. I got a shout out from her on Twitter. If you like what you've heard, please, and you listening to us live on YouTube, excuse me, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Also, subscribe to us to the show on iTunes. Subscribe to us on SoundCloud as well. Love to hear you. Some comments from you. Love to hear some remarks from you. 5-star review. It will get read back on the show. For those who want to follow me personally on Twitter, brothers at BrotherJR76. As I said to begin the show, if you want to find all information regarding Pound for Pound Boxing Report, blog page is the place to go to, P4P Boxing Report .wordpress.com. Check the right of the link. Right of the blog page, you'll find links to channels and pages on Twitter, Facebook, G Plus, Tumblr, YouTube. Also, you will find links to listen to the show on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, Player FM, for the folks in the UK, as well as Mixcloud. Because we didn't do any previews this week, there was no real fights of note happening. Next week will be mostly a preview show. Do a preview of Amir Khan and his return to the ring against Phil LaGreco. Also, the aforementioned Adrian Broner, he's going to fight Jesse Vargas. Jamal Charlo's going to fight, I believe he's going to fight on that undercard, as well as Gervonta Davis, who we just talked about. Those three will be fighting on Showtime in NYC. Who else? I believe Carl Frampton is going to fight Nonito Donaire. All these fights are happening on the 21st, of course, on the undercard of Frampton Donaire. One of my favorite fighters, Zolane Tete, is going to fight his mandatory against Omar Narvaez. So we will be doing a preview of all those fights and any news and boxing news of notes in the interim. So for Gail from Communities Digital News, for Scorsese, who joined us earlier, from Daniel of the Inscriber, Jacob from Jab Hook, this has been episode 204 of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I am your host, Michael. We will see you next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.
Good night.